Women on a Green Mission. Follow along as two friends document their unfurling permaculture journeys.
Join our chats each week where we'll be sharing how we and others apply permaculture to our gardens and daily life.
We're no experts. We're at the start of our journey, fumbling our way to a greener life. We love your company along the way.
Hey.
Hello, how are you?
I'm well, how are you?
I'm awesome.
Excellent.
We're in the slide into the long weekend, so we're going camping. Woohoo!
Yay.
Well, when I say
exciting.
camping, it's like we've done the sleeping on the ground camping. We now have a caravan. It's not a luxurious one. It's like a circa 1980 kind of caravan, but it's a little home away from home. Yeah. So it does us, like when we pulled up next to your amazing traveling van, when we did our PDC, we look like, what are the cousins out of the Griswolds, like that pull up in the big, dodgy motorhome? That's what we look like.
Well, we don't have a van anymore, so you're ahead of us.
So yeah, you sold yours now. So we're we're just gonna go. We're only going like locally as well. We're only going 40 minutes up the road, but we go with our camping group. So it's my best mate and her hubby and another few friends and like the kids and all the rest of it. So it's just 4 days of kicking back and playing cards and having a few drinks and just chilling out. So I'm looking forward to it.
I like the local stays though. I think they're fun.
I do too for so many different reasons, like because you don't tend to, well, I don't know about anyone else, but I know for us, like we've got so many amazing things in the Hunter Valley and surrounding the Hunter Valley, but we just tend to not go, spend a weekend exploring. Like we do occasionally, but we don't do it often enough. So, when we do those local stays, it gives us an opportunity to really kind of lean into the area a bit and see what's available and what's out there.
You staying in a national park?
No, it's actually on a private property that they've got. Just they've set up a camp. So it's been there for years. So they've just set it up and it's just a good wholesome sort of family farm. So we're going from one farm to another because it's like, come along and feed the chickens. I'm like, I'm not leaving mine to go and feed yours. No, I'm not doing that. So it's they've got a nice river running through there. I think it's the Allen River that runs through, and the boys can go fishing, and they can do that, and us girls will just sit there and chat and natter and do what we do, catch up.
Cups of tea.
Yeah, that's it. A few cocktails, a few I'm not drinking at the moment, so I'll be on cups of tea, but everyone else will have a few little drinky poos. What about you? What have you got planned for the weekend?
Well, as we were recording this, we have had birthday season in our household. So it was Oscar's dad, Oscar, me, and then Addie is next week. So we have all the birthdays.
Oh my goodness.
And then 2 weeks after that is my mum and dad. So it's a crazy time of year for us. Just lots of birthdays and seeing family. We've had some wild weather up here. So our garden beds, I made like hoops out of PVC pipes and we screwed a piece of timber across the top to secure it all, and then netted it and then stapled the netting down and then tied it down. So it's like a full enclosed netting system. And with the rain and the wind we had, it blew the entire thing off.
Oh,
and like
wow.
These pipes are like probably 600 in the ground. So we had some wild weather and
my goodness.
At first it was just the top thing that came off and I was like, oh, that's weird that it's come off. It's actually sheared the screws from the timber and the PVC pipe clear off and then the whole thing's then come off.
So the wind's been getting underneath that timber and just lifting.
Yeah.
And
it's only probably, I don't know, like 3 centimeters wide. Like it's not a big piece of timber for it to catch under.
Yeah, it's not like a big sail.
Yeah, we repaired that today. And I've just been holding off planting any more seeds because I think they just drown in that weather. So I've got a whole heap of seeds to plant this weekend, all the ones that failed. I know I spoke about the corn last time, like my corn.
Yeah, what happened with that?
Failed. Well, I think it must have gotten eaten or something because I had a message from a chick that lives down the road and she's like, oh, my corn's all come up and it's, this big. And I was like, oh, my corn died. So I'll have to plant all that again. And yeah, I've got a bit of a list happening. And my dahlias that I bought at the Smart Living Festival, Living Smart, I always get that mixed up. Got to put those in the ground. We've got a little bobcat we're hiring this weekend to move more dirt around and to move more mulch around. So yeah, we've got a busy couple of days coming up, and yeah, Oscar's been traveling for work. Even though like we're on season break, we've been doing lots of interviews. So I've been editing. It's all been a bit crazy actually.
It has been a bit hectic. Yeah, you've been full on.
Yeah, and then our plans are kind of getting submitted, so I'm trying to tee up trades, and then I've got a concreter I had teed up, and then he's like, oh, I can't do it, I'm selling my business. So I'm just kind of trying to tie up loose ends in so many different areas of my life right now. And I got accepted into a business school, so I started that last week. So that's like an extra layer of work. So in a bit of a busy season at the moment. Lots of family stuff going on. Yeah.
It's keeping you on your toes.
Yeah, first permaculture at the pub this Friday.
Yes, you have. You started the one up there. So have you got a lot of interest?
Yeah, heaps of people asked about it and are keen. So I'm going to put out a reminder tomorrow and just double check that everyone remembered that it's on. So that'll be good. Yeah, I feel like I talked for half an hour about what we've done in the last week or so because we've just literally had so much on. I actually just printed a new calendar out because our calendar has just got so much on it and it's got things crossed out and then things rewritten and it's just like, so I've got a column now.
What are we doing? Where are we going?
I have a column now for each family member. Just trying to get our heads around where we're all meant to be, and yeah, it's been crazy.
Oh my goodness. Make sure that you're taking some time out for a bit of self-care and breath time as well for you. Like I know that sometimes, I know for me sometimes, taking that time out, like I think I need to, just take that time to meditate every day. And the brain goes, you don't have time to meditate. You've got to get this done. Like, let's go. And it's like, this is exactly the time that I need to just take 5 minutes out. But it is. And it's look, this season too, like it's, it is spring and there's so much going on and everyone sort of, wakes up as well. Like it's not just the garden waking up, like we're all waking up and it's like, I want to go and be social and I want to do this and I want to do that. And then, you've got all of, the complexity, like you said, of, the birthdays and the family stuff and all these other things that are happening as well.
Yeah.
It's, it's
Christmas,
a lot.
Like Christmas is just around the corner now.
No, it's not. No, shush yourself. No, sticking my fingers in my ears. La, 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 la. Can't hear you.
Well, I've been doing Pilates. So when Oscar's away, I can't do Pilates because I don't have anyone to look after the kids. But I try and fit in 2 or 3 days of Pilates. So that's my kind of me time where I go and I do that. And I've got a friend that goes and we have coffee afterwards. So that's really nice. But because he's been away so much, I just even haven't been able to do that. So this week I've gotten back into that. So I went on Monday and I'm going to go tomorrow morning.
Fantastic.
Saturday session booked in. Yeah, so that's really nice. That's kind of keeping that balance of
Could you find like another mum maybe that is into Pilates as well that wants to do different times to you so that you can kind of like do childcare together? Like you can.
Yeah, maybe. It's like really early in the morning though. Like the kids are still asleep when I leave.
Yeah, so that makes it hard.
Tricky time of day, yeah. Even when Oscar works, I still get my Saturday one in and then I try and get another one in during the week if I can. But yeah, otherwise we just go for a walk and meet up with some of the other mums. So that's nice too because the kids kind of keep themselves busy and you get some downtime. Fergus has regressed into being a baby all of a sudden and literally wants to crawl back into my womb and is like baby talking, so I definitely need that like space from the kids at the moment. In that phase where he's just like, Mama, help me do this, and I'm like, oh my god, you're 4, like stop it. But yeah,
it's all part of it though, isn't it? All part of growing up.
Just a phase. You'll be out of it as quick as you went into it, I'm sure. But yeah. So who have we got on today?
Who have we got on today?
Brett.
Go figure. We've got Bretto back on.
Yeah, so
it's really good.
to him about project management and hierarchy of resources. So
And
yeah,
so many other bits and pieces as well in there, right? Like as
yeah,
typical, we kind of went on a few tangents, but
yeah,
yeah, he's got so much going on at the moment too. Like there's
yeah.
so, I mean, like we're not gonna spoil it. Yeah, let Brett tell you all about what he's got going on. But yeah, he has a lot going on.
That's kind of where the topic came from. They've like restructured their course, and he kind of realized how meaningful those two things are, and that he wants to integrate more of it. So they've kind of beefed up their course, got some more teachers, extended it, kind of just next leveled the whole thing. So he kind of chats to us about that and some of the offerings they've got coming up. And yeah, it was an epic chat. So I hope you enjoy. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Practical Permaculture Podcast. This week, we've got Brett on again. Hello.
Yay!
Hey guys, how are you?
Now,
Oh,
if
we're
you're
awesome.
a long-term listener, you'll know who Brett is because we talk about him like probably every couple of weeks. Joe, what do you reckon?
Sorry.
Well, we just keep saying this is all your fault. The podcast, the friendship, the whole bit. It's just all Brett's fault.
It's all you guys. It is all you guys. I love it.
So Brett taught us our PDC, and we remained in contact with him, and so many of our connections that we've formed are through Brett. So we wanted to have him back on. Before we get too far into the podcast, do we all just want to acknowledge where we're recording today? Brett, where are you?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're recording on Warramai country. So we're stewarding the lovely land of the Warramai people.
And
Joe?
we're next door. So we're in the land of the Wanarua people here in the Hunter Valley.
And I'm actually in Newcastle this week. So I'm down on a Awabakal land because Joe and I have got the Living Smart Festival this weekend.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so all right, so we've got Brett on because some of our most popular episodes have been about homesteading. Everybody loves it. Everybody's interested in it. They kind of want to get as much information as possible. And as part of Brett's new PDC next year, they're incorporating a whole homesteading aspect to the PDC. So we thought we'd get Brett on because he comes from a very logical project management structured background. So if you haven't heard about Brett's background, go back and listen to our previous episode with him. We'll link it in the show notes. But because he has that way of thinking, we thought we'd get him on to talk about homesteading, how you manage your projects, and just hierarchy management of resources on your property, because it's something that I think we really struggle with, especially with people who are working full time, or you have all these balls in the air. How do you kind of make your homestead work for you? How do you fit it all in, I guess, because we don't want to be overwhelmed. We want to, I mean, for me personally, permaculture is slowing down, taking stock of our life, really living from our values. So it kind of seems counterintuitive then to, be stressed about your homestead and managing it all. So we're excited to talk to you about this because I think a lot of people will really be interested in what you have to say.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate that. I suppose I could kick straight off into saying that for us, it's just been like that transitional journey where we have always been pushing the permaculture design certificate course, and obviously always to do with the permaculture principles, the permaculture ethics, and the design process. So that was all about understanding connections and relationships and building towards designing your property from analysis and all those bits and pieces that come together to get you something that gives you a framework, a starting point. But now, where we are with our course and what we're moving into next year, is the idea that, okay, where do you go when you start to get towards that planning and design stage, that you've got everything down on paper. You've done as much analysis as you can on paper. Obviously, the observation and all that kind of thing is forever, but you are now getting there and you're going, right, first and foremost, I need to start actually implementing projects. So, you're working towards projects, and then what are those projects going to mean to you? Well, a lot of the projects for us in the early days were actually setting up the homestead and actually setting up the systems of homesteading. So
Mm-hmm.
the idea that it's one thing to set up your kitchen gardens and your compost and your water management and your protective infrastructure, but then you also think about what about my storage areas for food and my outdoor pantries?
Yeah.
They could be cellars. And what about the different methods of dealing with the produce and hopefully the abundance of produce that
Mm.
you get in off your homestead. So there was all these little attachments, if you like. So we get excited about gardening, and so we should. I mean, it's awesome. But that idea that then you need to learn how to preserve and ferment and canning and jarring and all the things that go along with it. So
Yeah.
what's happened is over the years we've been wanting to do this for a long time, and we've been living this, but it was sort of a little bit difficult for us to try and find that transition until we
Mm.
started talking with Maplewood Permaculture, which is another one of our local permaculture educators in our region. And the collaboration has now allowed us to move forward because we've got the
Mm.
additional teachers, we have the additional minds working on it. And yeah, looking so forward to this, so forward to it.
So exciting. So
It's such
exciting.
a yeah, it's such a um I don't want to use the word improvement. Enhancement, I think, is the right thing, because I mean what you were
Yeah,
delivering and offering before was just, it was next level for a course anyway, but this is just such a
Mm.
big enhancement, and that natural next step, because as you're sort of talking about that, I'm going through in my mind, yeah, where I've been, and even this season with, okay, yeah, how do I deal with this produce, and how much
Yeah.
sauerkraut am I really going to make with the 1,000 cabbages that I've planted, like you know sort of just understanding, yeah, how to manage that process and manage it effectively, so that again you're not in that state of overwhelm.
Yeah.
yeah. Look, it's again, it comes down to what permaculture is a lot about, which is taking the time for thoughtful observation and thoughtful planning, right?
Mm-hmm.
So again, we whilst it's an awesome thing to get caught up in the design process, we
Mm.
need to be designing and planning the other parts of our life to do with
Yeah.
what we're trying to set up. So yeah, you're exactly right. So when you think about it, kitchen management, your food storage preservation management, your tool shed management, these are all additions. These are all extensions.
Mm.
And so, yeah, as I say, we're stoked to be bringing them on, and like at some point, I'm happy to read through those lists of
Yes.
potentials.
Yeah. Do it
You let
now
me
if
know
you
when you're
want.
ready.
Go for it. Tell us what's
All right. Well,
involved.
let's jump into it then. I mean, and sorry, I do have to read this out, guys. There's actually a few things. So as far as the PDC-HC goes, so Permaculture Design Certificate Homesteading course, right? So it still is a design certificate. It will come with all the expectations of the design course,
Hmm.
but then we move into the homestead harvest. We move into homestead shed and tool management, the edible and medicinal garden management, homestead orchards, homestead animal management, and that is the go to woe, the homestead kitchen, homestead project management. Now, you might say, well, project management for everything. Well, it is, but this is about project management for those things that are actually going to stabilize the abundance that you have coming in. Because it's funny, I have been, because I've been consulting so long and educating so long, I do get to talk to quite a few ex-students or current students
Hmm.
or clients that talk about, at the moment I'm producing, half a ton of potato, right?
Mm.
And I go, wow, that's cool. What are you doing with it, right? And they go, well, that's what we don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
we've got this much, we're giving this much away, we've got so much inside, and then it starts to move into a waste factor,
Hmm.
right? So then good homestead project management might mean that you've installed the right kind of storage systems or the right enhancements in the sense of fermenting, and I'm not talking about using your potatoes to go out and make, what is it, vodka? I don't know. What does potatoes make?
Yeah, vodka. It's
I'm
okay. I
using
got you. I
I'm
got
using
you.
so just to finish off, I mean, yeah, and then we've got things like obviously income from homestead. So
Yes.
we've always had those little things tied into the course, but here's our chance to delve deeper. Here's
Yeah.
our chance to look at what are all the possible ways to make use
Mm.
of everything that you want to do on that property,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so that's homesteading. It's resilience. It's working with abundance. So abundance is the ultimate goal. Abundance in life of everything. So joy, happiness, food, water, energy. Yeah, fantastic. Give it to me, right? But
Mm-mm.
I don't want to be caught wasting it. So then that's yeah. So that's homesteading is how can that be used? Yeah, wisely.
We talked about this in our last season with our episode on enoughness, because permaculture is about abundance
Yeah.
of produce, your time, like you're saying, joy, all these things. But where is that line between enoughness and then you're into this glut and you feel like you're being, like you said, wasteful,
Yeah.
because not only have you wasted the produce, but your time and your effort and the resources to get it to that point. So, where do you draw that line? But I think, like you said, when you approach homesteading from that permaculture lens, the planning that goes into, how much do I really need? But then
Mm.
B, what am I going to do with it? And what are my options once we have it all here? And can I deal with it so that you're not in that situation?
Yeah, look, Lisa, I think also with and exactly what you're saying there, we look at something. I'll give an example. Something like corn, right? We can only
Mm,
grow corn through the hot seasons. Okay, so it's an old fashioned study, if you like, in homesteading that the original homesteaders always grew when they could grow, and then
mm-hmm.
store what they couldn't grow in the other seasons. So first and foremost, that's original homesteading, right? So the idea that you do grow a glut, you do grow more than you need at that point in time, but then you uh, process it, ferment it. You do what you need to do with it to store it, to turn it into something that is then going to carry you through nutritionally in the periods when you can't grow it. So the idea of growing more than you need isn't as bad as it sounds, as
Yeah.
long as you find a use
Yes.
for it. And then let's say that you even do too much of that. Well, that's what community's for. That's what bartering and sharing over the fence. And so I have no worries when I end up with 30 jars of beetroot more than I need, because
Yeah.
it always finds a home, and it always repays me. Not that it needs to, but it always repays me in either the happiness of giving, like actually going, wow, and somebody's going, oh my God, this looks unreal, or you get something in return that is something you don't have. So then that's another form of providing yourself with a diversity of nutrition, a diversity of something else that you can use. I love it. It's perfect.
Yeah. And do you go into like those redundancy things too? Like corn, if we're taking that example, you can freeze it, but if your freezer breaks, do you have canning?
Yes.
Do you have, underground cold storage? Like all those kinds of things that you're not relying on one method, I guess, is
Yeah, it's
another
all in
aspect.
context to the type of vegetable. Yeah.
Yes,
So
totally.
some vegetables are good for fermenting, some can really well.
Mm,
Freezing is always a really good option, but as you say, from a redundancy point of view, one of the redundancies you'd be looking at is then what could you do to ensure that you have freezing capabilities,
mm,
right? So the way the freezer can break down is either going to be gas, mechanical, or electrical. What have you got backing up? Have you got a second freezer? Have you got a second form of power? And if that's not the case, then as you say, from a homesteading point of view of actual food, is then how else can you store that corn that doesn't require to go to a freezer? So absolutely, there is. You've got to learn about the foods, and look, that's where Nikki really comes into the game. I'm not your expert on that. I have to trust. If I come in, I go, "Hey, darling, can we can this?" And she goes, well, that's not so good to can. I go, oh, okay, right. So yeah, I mean, I'm still learning that myself, but yeah, I would say that redundancy, every principle in permaculture is used in homesteading, without a
Yeah.
doubt, without a doubt.
And we're hoping to have Nikki on later on in the season too, so maybe she can speak more to that a little bit as well.
Yeah.
It's so interesting though, because I mean, I've been doing a little bit of canning and a little bit of fermenting, and when I say a little bit, like I've got, still got training wheels on well and truly. Haven't done a lot of water bath canning, not a lot of pressure canning. Got the pressure canner, really excited. Haven't quite
Love
got them
them.
there yet, but
I'm so scared of them.
there was I don't even know what group it was, again on social media, and a few ladies said, oh, I'm same thing, I've got this pressure canner, I'm a little bit nervous about sort of moving into that, but I want to be able to can meats and things like that, ready-made meals and things. And there's a whole group of us that went, yeah, us too. And there's a few ladies that said, well, look, I've been doing this for years, why don't we get a group together, we're going to hire a hall, we'll all just chip in and we'll make a day of it. So that's currently sort of happening, I think it's going to be in Clarence Town. Yeah. So, and that was just through someone saying, hey, can someone give me a little bit of guidance and advice and just a bit of a bolster up to say, hey, come on, you can do this. Let's go. Let's give it a crack. So it looks like there's going to be like 20 odd of us doing that. So, and again, that's that sharing of, knowledge and ideas and understanding. And yeah, that'd be amazing.
Good, and at least don't fear the pressure canner. Just buy the good ones. Buy the good ones, right? So like I've got 3 now. They're mine. They're my pressure canner, right? So Nikki and I have an understanding. Nikki's not a massive fan of pressure cookers either, but I do the pressure cooking because I grew up that way. There's plenty of us that had parents and pas and nanas and all the rest of it. So I've actually got my nan's hand-me-down Hawkins pressure cooker, right? 1962, 1958, something like that. Amazing. So I've got little pressure cooker, medium pressure cooker, big pressure cooker, big canning pressure cooker. So yeah, I love them. But you've got to get the good ones. Don't buy the cheap ones. And if they've got plastic around them, don't get.
They're just not gonna go the distance.
Well, I'm not into plastic fittings on something that holds so much pressure. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're awesome.
I think the cool thing about doing the course with you guys is that you guys are so hands-on. Like when we did our permaculture course, everything was so demonstration, like so many demonstrations backing up the theory, so much hands-on learning, and it really solidified our learning. It made us go, that's what he meant when he said this. Like actually moving through the motions of doing what you're talking about is so different to an online course where you're just like, and then you're like, I don't really get that. Or you go to do it and you're like, I don't quite get what they meant when they said to like, in situ compost, like, you know what I mean? I think that hands-on aspect, especially for homesteading, is going to be so cool to see in action. And you've got other courses too that aren't attached to that are homesteading related. Is that right? You're launching next year?
Yeah. So first and foremost, totally agree. Demonstration is authority.
Yes. Yeah.
Given.
Period.
I'm like you guys. I'm exactly like you guys, and I come up that way. That if somebody wasn't actually getting me to do it, I wasn't learning properly. So yeah, absolutely. And as far as additional, what we're calling homesteading extensions, we have. We're going to have specialised extensions that won't be in the PDCHC because just due to the diverse nature of our students, some students won't want to be involved in some things.
Yeah.
So we decided to extract them out of the course, which is cool. Gives us room for other things, but things like animal management from processing to storage, right through. That's going to be a whole weekend. That's going to be that's an extension on its own. And yeah, fingers crossed that's going to involve 2 farms, but at the very least limestone. And with all our new setup, which you ladies haven't seen yet.
No.
Nobody's seen yet. Yeah, we've got brand new poultry shed stations and and the new
Fantastic.
prep rooms built, and we've been upgrading after all these years, 14 years on the farm. We're finally moving from the old stuff to the new stuff. So yeah, really excited. So it's going to be everything's going to be ready, and it's going to be super professional, super hygienic. Everything's going to be top notch. Absolutely.
I'm really
So
keen for that one.
exciting.
I'm, you know, I have, well, my story is, been vegetarian for many, many years and have gone back
Yeah.
to eating meat and eating ethical meat. And part of that is, eating our own ethical meat. So I know where the animal's been raised. I know exactly how it's been treated through its death and how it's been processed. So for me, I actually got really excited about that and had a bit of a giggle. And I went, "This is like, 10 years ago, I wouldn't have gotten excited about that at
Yeah,
all. I would have been like, oh no, that's too far." But that's what it's all about, isn't it? Like it
Yeah.
is about being able to do this for yourself, but do it for the right reasons that you want to be able to do it. And everyone's going to have their different reasons,
yeah.
for why they
And
want to do
can I
that.
add to that, Joe? Can I add to that
Yeah.
one of the things that we want to be really clear on is with permaculture is the ethics, right? So the idea that when we go to do those days, there's respect. Um, there's respect in the animal. There's the understanding on how things are done correctly. So the whole idea is that we call it permaculture principled homesteading for a reason, right? Because you can just homestead, and look, anybody homesteading doing it now is fantastic, awesome. And I think most people care about what they do anyway. We just want to reiterate, and we just want to make sure we add that permaculture dimension to our homesteading, which is the design and planning and the principles that guide us and the ethics to make sure that we are caring for everything we do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Which is, yeah, is yeah, I think is absolutely brilliant. But there's so many good extensions. I was reading it when you first posted it and thinking, how can I possibly get through all of these?
well, the good
I
the
was
good news is
thinking,
for
yeah, how
well,
can I
so
drive
so
down
the,
that far?
yeah. Well, look, the other thing is that one of the things that we're very clear on as well is that there was an understanding that here we are starting this whole new course next year, and all our past PDC students and other PDC students that haven't done their PDC with us
Yeah.
haven't had the opportunity to
Mm.
do this additional enhancement. I like what you said, Joe. The enhancement of homesteading within the PDC. So even though we're going to be doing extensions, which are on top of everything again, which I just mentioned about the poultry processing and things like that, we're actually thinking about extracting the modules out of the PDC HC. So some of our past PDC students and other PDC
Yeah.
students can then do that in a series called the Homesteading series.
Yeah, that would be
And
amazing.
yeah, so and that could be broken. That might only be like 2 weekends or so. We're working on that right now. But the whole idea is we don't want anybody to miss out. So because we've already been questioned.
I'm sure
So
you were
we
grilled.
yeah. We are. Don't worry. Yeah,
Brett.
we have. So we definitely don't. We definitely want to make it available. Especially to all those past PDC students. So that's definitely coming up. The other thing I just want to make note on all this is one of the big things that we go on in the design concept is obviously the design process. Well, then that's going to extract, right, and through into the homesteading section. And so we're going to be looking at the design and planning and management of everything that you're going to need on your homestead. So if you're going to be setting your kitchen and pantry up, it's not just a case of us talking about fermenting and canning. We're actually going to go, all right, what's the equipment that's needed? What's the spatial planning, right? How things could be organized in that space, right? And then that moves to your tool shed on how your shed should be set out and what equipment are you going to need, and then it moves to your processing areas. So this is why I'm excited, because it's bringing my mindset right, which is this crazy the thing that keeps me up all night thinking about how things should lay out and plan, and because I understand after all these years that even though that can do some people's heads in, if they do take the time to go through this, it will make the rest of their journey that much easier.
And I
And
suppose on that too, I wanted to touch, Brett, because you said, you're going to go through like the equipment and the resources and that spatial planning, which is we're in the process of replanning our kitchen. So, that's exactly what we're going through at the moment. But also, I think just as importantly as all the things that you need to consider are the things that you don't need. So
yes,
you don't need to go out and spend thousands and thousands of dollars of all these fandangle, tools for the shed that might look great and they're nice and shiny, but if you're going to only use them once a year, then what's the point? You can borrow them,
perfect.
you can barter for them, you can do whatever. So I think, and that was something that we picked up, through the PDC as well. Is okay, what is needed and why. And you're not saying, well, I've got this, so you should have that. It's like, well, I've got this
Yeah,
because the way I use it is to do this and this and this. And, then from a student perspective, we're looking at it going, well, okay, that may not work in our context, but I like the idea of what you're doing there, but this will work. I've already got this, so I can implement that. So if that makes sense. But yeah,
that's
I think
perfect.
that's important as well.
Yeah. I think in taking it from that PDC lens as well, like in my context, I'm living in a tiny home. So how do I still make homesteading work for me, or people in really urban areas that might not have the space, who can't have a big processing shed? And that's why I like it from that permaculture design point of view, because you can design it to your context. Everything is so contextual, and you can make it work for you. And like you said, Joe, what fits my needs, what fits my purpose. Okay, I'm in an area where I've got more community around me potentially, so I can, swap and share, and someone has a canner that I can borrow. Or, like here in Mayfield, they've opened one of those like share sheds where like they might
Yeah,
have a dehydrator, and so you don't have to buy one because the share shed has one. And so I think it still relates to that really urban context. I think people hearing you talk about it, Brett, they go, oh, I don't have a farm, so I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? But homesteading is so scalable. It's just really understanding your site sector, which is where the permaculture comes into it. And like you said, collecting all the data and starting with your why, which is what I love about your course, that starting with your why. Because if you start with that, your decisions are so informed about, how you want to live
it all
and designing
everything
your
relates
life.
back to it. Yeah,
Yes, yes, so
Absolutely.
much. So,
yeah. I mean, like we were homesteading back in Mayfield, back
yeah,
when we
yeah.
had that urban place. That was 330 square meters, and we called it the urban squeeze for a reason. It was tight, really tight. You don't get much land left after you put a house on 330 square meters. Um, but our initial homesteading started there, even though we never really called it that, and we did what we had to do. But we were fermenting, we were starting to can and doing all that kind of thing. So I'm a massive believer that space is only what you make it.
Yeah.
Like the idea that everything might be contextual. You might live in an apartment, you might live in a small urban dwelling, you might live in a rural property. But generally speaking, what the space is inside houses isn't always all that much different. I mean, yeah, you can have a
True.
big house to a small house and stuff, but generally every house comes with a kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
They come with some kind of little pantry or cupboards. They all have laundries and wash areas, and these all become multifunctional. So the humble laundry tub becomes something else, right? The pantry gets remanaged and reconfigured, and you get the most out of it. And then you also think about, well, should I be using the sides of it, and how can I go up into the ceiling, and it just goes. So really, that's one of the things that we're going to be really driving home hard in this course, and that won't be something that's just said out loud or put on across on a presentation. We're actually going to go into all those areas. So, we've got mezzanine floors going up into our roof areas in our shed for our jar storages. I mean, basically, the top area of our shed is all Nikki and Bronny's. And it's they've got the bulk of my shed. But so what I've had to do is I've had to be very frugal as to how my tool layout is.
Yeah.
right? So that's what. So things we've been working towards this for a long time, and we've done a lot of fine tuning and things that we've wanted to do for ages, and knew how to do it. But in the last, say, 18 months to 2 years, we've worked hard to get that up to scratch, knowing that at some point we're going to be educating this scenario. So that's
Yeah.
sort of where we are at the moment. So I just want to make a point that spatial awareness, right, is so paramount in getting the best out of your homestead. So we always use spatial awareness out on the land. So that's in permaculture. Everybody talks about that all the time. But spatial awareness under your house, in your roof, um, having multifunctionality for the things you already own, like the little sheds you might have, or that, as I say, that pantry that could act as something else, and that tub that could act as something else. So then giving them new headings, new task names or functionalities, right? Man, I get
Yeah.
excited about that.
Well, we've got an acre and a half, but our house is only going to be 136 off the top of my head meters square. So for
Yeah,
such a
100.
large
Okay.
block, it's
Yep,
quite a small little, because
it
affordability, that's all
is.
we can afford to really build. And in terms of a homestead, when you're thinking land and sprawling houses, like it's quite small for what we're building. And actually, our shed is nearly the same size as our house. Because that's what our shed's going to be. Well, yeah, it's going to be multifunctional. We're going to have, an outdoor kitchen so it can use as our prep space, and it's going to have that flow through. And so because we've done that course with you and thought about it from scratch and did our site sector and how our energy flows through our block and our home, and even just making our woodshed and our composting bays, really thinking about how we can add different levels on that, and trellising. And even I know when we went to your place and you had tools, how they were under little alcovey kind of veranda bits, like all those things. Like it was such an eye opener to see. So yeah, I think it'd be really interesting to go into that.
Well, that's impressive, Liz. That is impressive because, funny enough, I had this conversation just recently where we were talking about the size of houses as opposed
Mm,
to all the other infrastructure on your property. And
mm,
I'm a massive believer because we're only in a small, ours is basically a 2-bedroom cottage.
yeah.
Um, but and I know yours would be smaller than that. But what I would say to you is, in this day and age, number one, frugality. What do you actually need to be sheltered, and what do you need?
Mm,
So you need bedrooms, a place to eat your dinner, a kitchen, a little living room for your, watch TV and that. But where do you do the bulk of your living,
mm,
right? So really, the house is for your sleep. You spend most of the time in the house sleeping,
yep.
right? Yeah, and so your living is outside. By rights, the sun comes up, you're out there, right?
Yep.
Sun goes down, you come back in. So,
Yep.
so for me, a, a big house is not required,
Mm,
right? So you need a functional house that does what it needs to do. But I can tell you right now, all our homesteading stuff is now, like, we're progressing. Like, up until this point, probably half of our homesteading was done in the house and half was done outside. It's
mm,
moving towards 80 to 90% being done outside
mhm,
of the house. So it'll be in rooms, it'll be in shelters and things like that. So what's important is that the bulk of all our homesteading stuff, even our outdoor pantries, all our tools, everything's out of the house,
mm,
right? So we're getting to the point where we're getting a good understanding now of the requirements. So again, coming back to spatial, is what do you actually need as a place to live in, and then what do you need as functional spaces,
mm,
right? And so for us, one of the reasons why I bought this property is when we saw this little baby sitting on that, back in 2010, it had this little cottage, and we've gone, oh, that's nice. But then it had two other sheds,
yeah.
good sized sheds, and we went, right, here we go, right?
And you know
Yeah,
what else I
because
love about that is that you're outside doing all the things, and then you come home to your zone zero space and it's zen, because there's not all this shit everywhere from
yeah,
processing chickens or washing veggies. It's clean, you're zen, you're in your zone zero, and you're happy. You're back in your happy space,
yeah,
and it all takes place outside. So kind of feel like as a parent too, it reduces the mess and the craziness inside your house.
Reduces the energy.
Yeah.
You need less firewood to heat the place. You need less power to run it.
Yeah.
You know, having
less
more
cleaning
sheds.
up. There's less crap to fill up. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's even good, you know, families with kids, having other places to go on the property, so other sheds and other places to be and help out. And it just adds variety and diversity. Instead of just being in the one location. Now, I know that for those listeners that are in the urban environment where you might be, you know, you've got your house and you may have a little. When I lived in Mayfield, we had a carport and a house. That's all we had. But if you ever go back and like now and again, we put our photos up. We had liftable storage units and water tanks attached, and we had inbuilt things going up into the roof and all kinds of crazy things going on. So even though we didn't have the sheds and all those extra spaces, we made them. So that place really exposed me to the awareness of every square centimetre, every minute space, and just looking at things with a different set of eyes and going, okay. And again, this is especially for the urban listeners. Don't get there and go, oh, all I've got's a house and a driveway. No, you've got way more than that. Way more. You know, walls offer something to put brackets on that can hold things, and any nooks and crannies and spaces, if they protect from the rain, that could be a storage area for potatoes, and it just goes on. There is so much to get out of every space. Hardly anybody, including ourselves, are really using their spaces to their nth degree.
Totally.
Yeah. So
there's always something that it can be turned into, and it doesn't have to be just one thing either. Like it can be a multifunctional space. So this part of the year might be potato storage, and the next part of the year it might be, you know, where you've got your cans ready to go for your next canning project or whatever that looks like. So it doesn't have to be right. This area is just for this. Like it can be that multifunctional space, right?
I think homesteading is so. Just swinging that back around the homesteading for a second and still talking about what we're talking about. Homesteading is that expansive mindset of looking at what you've got and then realizing there's so much multifunctionality and that there's so much potential there that that you start to get excited again about the place you're living in. That, you know, this is what permaculture does, and permaculture principled homesteading just makes you relook at everything you've already got, including yourself. Right? Let me give you a really quick example. So when we were doing farm tours back in the day, I used to come out and open up a folding table, used to put the kettle on, have everything all nice. Later on, I realised that, okay, how could we not have to come out and open a table where we could just drop something and have it in place? We noticed where everybody liked to congregate when they'd come up from where our oven was and they'd mill around that area that before coming onto the back deck. We go, right, okay, that's a central location. There's a wall there. Okay, it's in underneath the veranda just a bit around the side. Okay, I'm going to make a drop-down table in that spot. So this is me getting all clever about this, right? Thinking I was clever. So I've made this drop-down table. It was all out of recycled parts. In fact, I pulled the fold-down table apart to make it and built this thing that could fold back up so the legs could swing out or swing down, and then it would fold out to be this table. I come out one day, and Nikki's got the table legs facing out with all the laundry hanging off it, drying the clothes, and it's it's absolutely in the perfect location. It's literally out the door, same whole thing, same centralized location, out of the rain, morning sun facing northeast, right, and in a breezeway, right, and I'm going, damn. And she said to me, she goes, I love this table and this clothesline you set up. And I said, what clothesline? I didn't set no clothesline up. And she's just folded the legs out and gone, there's a clothesline. I've gone, damn. So now it's used flat out. It is the clothesline, table, everything. It cost nothing to build. I mean, it was all made from other things. And so that to me is homesteading. People go, oh, it's carpentry, oh, it's just being, frugal minded, but no, that's homesteading. It's perfect.
But it's all of those things, isn't it? Like I love being frugal. I love being resourceful, and like you said, finding different ways to, whether it's use something or utilize that space, or how can I upcycle something, turn that into something else. And my finessing's nowhere near yours, but it gets
Oh,
done. It gets
don't
done.
believe that.
I love the way your brain works, Brett, though, like to have all those considerations.
I think sometimes it scares my wife a little bit. I think that's why she put a little lamp and a notepad and a pen next to my little table. So she got sick of me waking up at 4 a.m. tapping on the shoulder, go, hey, babe, I've got an idea. So now I've got a pad that I've got to write down, and then I'm allowed to show her later on in the morning.
Once the sun's up and everyone else is awake.
Everybody should wake up at 4 a.m. with a good idea, right? It's normal.
I wanted to ask about project management. So, and this is a purely selfish question because it is something that I would love to be better at. I would love to understand more from that practical application. From a theory perspective, got it down pat. Taking it from the theory in my brain and making it something that is usable for me.
So if you were doing kitchen pantry, so a kitchen pantry layout and kitchen pantry management, right? Well, then the project management is the part where you organise how to do it, right? It's going to be the format. So it's going to be the, first of all, the what you want, so the vision. It's going to be then the scope of works, so scoping out what that entails. Once you know what you want, right? And then the order of works, how are you going to do it, in what order? And then the resource of works, what do I need? Where do I get it from?
See, I think that I am doing that. I'm just not necessarily as structured with it as what I should be. And then, when we get to say like the scope of works, got an understanding of that. When I'm actually going through the order of works, I'm like, oh yeah, well that can happen, that can happen, that can, and it's like, no, hang on, there's a hierarchy here that needs to happen.
That's what I was going to say. So, maybe talking to that hierarchy of resources too, Brett. Like what you mean by that?
I love that. Hierarchy of resources is good. But you can talk about so many hierarchy of resource. Can come into so many different mindsets. So you could be looking at a tree as a hierarchy, or you can be looking at a sheet of corrugated iron. But if we're talking project management, hierarchy of resource is if you get to the point in project management where you're starting to actually undertake resource observation and resource accumulation, right? So you're observing, you're looking around as to where can I get, what can I get, side of the roads, neighbours' properties, whatever, right? And you start to accumulate, right? Then understanding what you've got to use and how important it is at its highest purpose, right? That's the hierarchy of resource when you're talking project management. So, and as a really good example, sheet of corrugated iron. Let's use that one. So you find a sheet of corrugated iron. It has no holes in it, shiny, in really good condition. Because it is waterproof, it has no holes in it. Its hierarchy of resource would be used as a roof, right? As opposed to you've been given a sheet of corrugated iron that has screw holes in it. Now, I know you can try and line the holes up and put the screws in the same hole. That doesn't always happen. So as a safety measure, you can say that then something that's still in good condition but has holes in it would make really good walls, because you're not going to get the leak factor like you would from a roof. Then if you get given a sheet of corrugated iron that has some holes in it and it's a bit rusty, right, then you've got the option. You can say, well, I could still use it for walls, but this might be decorative. It might be for a rustic appeal, right? Or if you get given something that's got a lot of rust and it's nowhere near as good to be using on the walls and the roof, then it can be used for something like garden edging or chalk pens and things like that. So the idea that you look at something in all its in all its intrinsic values. all right? And that's really important because a lot of people, I see it all the time, they get something like a really good quality, like a really nice hardwood timber, or or some really good sheeting, or whatever it might be, and they use it for some sub purpose. Now I know it fills the purpose, but I look at it and go, oh my god, you could have done this, used it for this, and this on your homestead. Same people on your homestead, and use something inferior for those other jobs.
Yeah.
And then,
It's
so
the
then,
equivalent of chopping up your antique dining table to use for firewood.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is. It is. No, that's a good.
Yeah.
That's a really good analogy. Your favorite grandfather's rocking chair, and you go, well, geez, I need some kindling.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
so
chop her
you
up.
need, yeah.
Yep.
So that's where you even look at it. It comes right down to screws and nails.
Mm-hmm.
So rusty screws, chook pen. Good quality screws, walls and roofs on your house. So if you and again, whilst that might sound logical, it's not always something people pick up on straight away.
Or
That
you
we've
just go
noticed.
buy new because you're like, it's easy. You know
For
what I
sure.
mean? This is what I
Yeah.
need. And you
Yeah.
don't kind of actually think about what's available to you.
Yeah. Well, I'm a bowerbird by nature. Like I'm crazy, like driving around in the country. I'll be going on a consultancy and like multitasking big time. I'll make sure I've always got my racks on my ute. I've got my straps ready to go, and yeah, I will pick if I'm driving past. And that's the good thing coming from that permaculture lens. You are looking at these items differently, right? I know you guys are, and so you're driving along and you see something and you go, "Ooh, okay, that could be that." Straight away it hits you in the head. You're not even, you go, oh, there's 3 uses I could use that for, right? So bang, you're going to take it. And I do this, I do it too much, right? And it's not
There's
hoarding.
always
Trust
a
me, it's not
use.
hoarding.
There's always a use. And I suppose an example that
Yeah.
we've got here even is, and again, this has been our shifting mindset. And I've got that mindset as well. Like if I've got something that can be reused in some way, I hang on to it. We've got the space. The shed is full of resources. I used to call it crap. It is full of resources. But like
Yeah,
we've got a scrap metal pile out the front. That scrap metal pile has been there for 18 months. It's on our property still, but it's inside the gate because every time we go, there is zero chance of this thing being able to be used. We cannot use it. It is scrap. It is going to have to go for scrap. It goes in the pile, and 6 months later, we're doing a project and we go,
yeah,
hey, you know what, that little bit, remember that little angled bit? I reckon I could get that out. And so in we go into the middle of the pile and we pull it out and it's perfect. And
yeah.
it's reframed. So, we're probably going to have this thing sitting there for 5 years while we pick through it. But it's it's helped us to actually retrain us as to what is usable, even in the moment if we can't possibly picture how we could use this. And we're not saving junk for the sake of saving junk, but really think about how could this potentially be used in the next 12 months or a couple of years with the projects that we've got planned, and or the things that might need fixing around the place. Yeah, it's interesting.
Can I add that, Joe, just on that? Um, One of the things that we hope to do we know we are going to do with the homesteading section of the course is we're going to take what you're saying to a higher level. So the idea that you've got a pile, right? And at the moment you don't know what it's all for, but something tells you that I can't just dump it, right? So then we're offering, how do you manage that pile in a way that it's not a pile?
We've called it installation art now.
Yeah.
Joe!
Okay. I mean, yeah,
We
and
just
that's the
rename
thing.
it. But
You can always find a
do you
name.
know what though? That is key, because it can get overwhelming. Like, we've got 6.5 acres here. We've got lots of little piles going on. We've got little project piles for things that we've started and got it to the point that it's good enough for now and that we need to come back to. So it's like, okay, well, those resources just stay over there because we don't want to go carting them back to bring them all back
Yeah.
again. But when you've got 2, 3, 4, 5 of those around the place, that can get overwhelming, and it gets a little bit
Mm.
hard to then move through the property and have that joy factor, because you look and you go, oh, I've still got to get to that. Oh, still haven't done that.
But it
And
doesn't
so,
take. Yeah,
yeah, understanding how to manage that is really important.
yeah. It
Yeah.
doesn't take a hell of a lot to come in with that project management mind. That you look at that pile And first of all, this is just typically me. I'd look at the pile and say, right, I missed a pile. What in that pile can then make something that can house and rack what's in that pile? Right, that's the first thing I'm looking at, right? So if I can't do that, then what can I use to make that happen? But the idea of elevating things off the ground, the idea of putting them into categories. So, you've got tubed piping, you've got square piping, you've got brackets, you've got sheets of iron. This is it's just this is project management resourcing, right? It is actual project management 101. You'll never go to a proper building site and see things strewn everywhere. They're normally everything has a place to be.
Yeah.
So it's interesting enough that it's not so much to me to worry about an eyesore. That to be honest with you, I've had things laying in certain spots and that doesn't faze me. It's more my head getting there and going, I have a problem managing myself through that pile to find the opportunities. So then if I broke that up into opportunistic racking, right? So the idea that you could categorize and then get there and go, well, wait a minute, it may be in the bracket section.
Yeah.
It may be in the pipe section. It may be in the whatever. God, I don't know if you're keeping pigtails or whatever you're keeping there, but can you see how, like, really, it's all work. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you've got to build a lean-to or some racking. If it's just metal, you can do a racking without a roof. But if it's something where it's not all galvanized and stainless steel, then you might want to protect it, right? Well, can I just hit you with this example again? And I'm really this one excites me because it's very recent. So I had a sheet of marble benchtop. And back in the day when we first started teaching in 2014, this marble benchtop was in what's now the current lunchroom, and it's where we just used to bring everything and set everything on top of, and it had an old kitchen cupboard sitting underneath. That's all it was. When we got rid of the kitchen cupboard was rubbish, and when we got rid of everything, this marble top, I've pulled it out, I've gone, and it's heavy as 10 men. Like, it takes 2 people to move it, right? I've gone, I should just give you to somebody. You're too hard to move around. But no, I stashed it away. Now, that was 10 years ago. The other day, say 2 weeks ago, I've gone back out and I go, geez, I'll just measure you. Now that I've got this new poultry processing station and everything, and I've measured it, and it's 600 by 2.1. I've gone, yeah, you're a good size, and you're solid, and yeah, okay. So then I went on to Marketplace, and I just went looking for a stainless steel unit that was about 2 meters long. Found one within 2 nights. With doors. It even had a hopper, a pull-out hopper, everything on it. Had no bench top. Picked it up for $80. Right, full stainless unit, $80 down in Newey, and brought it home. Knew I already had the marble top because I done. So what I did was I associated what I needed to get to work with that marble top, because I knew the marble top was actually roughly the right size of the area the spatial area I had inside the poultry thing. So I've worked backwards, right? So then I went searching in my other little rack, which holds a couple of sinks. I may have 2 or 3 or 5, and I've had this double bowl sink with the old-fashioned one with the strainers either side, and it comes with a lip right round it. And I thought, and I've looked at this damn thing, and it's 1.5, and this thing fits inside the marble, fits inside the stainer. I'm just going, no way. I've just built this bench, Stano sink, marble top, $80.
Perfect.
Right?
Pretty good.
Thank you, universe. How good's that?
And it's purposeful, right? So the idea was that I first thought about the marble top because it's been sitting there, and it was racked. It was sitting with other heavy sheet form type benches and things that I've got down hidden around the back that most people don't see. And it was just interesting that, that project management allowed me. So the idea that I could understand that you had potential. Now I needed something to fit you, and that the sink only had to be smaller, which was going to be easy done. If I had to, I could pick one up for $50. And so that's what I've been doing. So it's a little bit reverse engineering, if you like, where you've got a spatial requirement, you allot another spatial requirement for a certain size cabinet, bench, whatever, and then you work back from the things that you may have that may work into that zone, or something you find on marketplace that is missing a benchtop or missing a sink, or and so you just, I mean, it's just jigsaw puzzles, really.
Yeah. Yep. That's so good.
Love
It's
it.
old school resourcefulness, isn't it?
See, but this is what we want everybody to like. Again, I'm not saying everybody doesn't utilize this, but I just see if you want to get into homesteading, well, fermenting and preserving and all things, they're all glamorous parts of it, and they're an awesome skill to learn and super valuable. But if you don't have the infrastructure to support it, then it makes it a little bit difficult. And so even right down to the tight urban apartment area, where you've got to say to yourself that if you're not going to use that laundry tub as part of your processing area, then you're not going to have the space to do something. So you have to purposely give it that extra function and go, well, I'm going to use you for this as well. So it's across the board and scalable. Yeah.
I actually think project management is the missing link in a lot of permaculture properties when you think about it.
Agreed.
It's just, like Joe said, things come across as disheveled or messy because people can't manage their projects, or they want to hang on to things because by nature we're trying to do that and reuse things and multi-purpose. And I think unless you have that skill of project management, it can make it really overwhelming, B, like you said, Joe, messy. But it's, you just don't know where to start, and it's all too much. So I think, project management is a massive skill to have when you get into that space.
Well, Liz, to give you an idea where we are at the moment, my daughter's 17, turning 18 very shortly, but she's been using project management because we taught her this at a young age. Oh, God, since she was like 13, 14, like, at the moment we're setting up the little tiny home thing out the back for her, and she's like, I'm just building it. She's telling me what to do. So she's actually drawing the plans. She's purchasing the equipment, right? Mostly our money. But she's purchasing the equipment, but she's getting it, organising everything. Everything's sized. She's measured. Like, her spatial awareness is mind-blowing. Well, I'm so excited to see how interested and passionate she is about all this.
Yeah.
Right. So here's a woman of 17 doing this, and so I go, everybody can do this. Everybody. Right. And so the problem is, the first thing we do when we come up to project management, the word itself hurts you, right? So you come up to project management, and that starts to overwhelm people before they've even got in. And you go, wait. Project management will take the overwhelming part out of it, because you'll know what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and for how much for. Because it forces you to break it down. So she's working all those, as I say, spatial awareness. She's working out the items that are going to fit. She's pricing the items to make sure whether they're affordable. And this is new or secondhand. So she's on marketplace. And she's chasing things down. And then some things I have to chase up with her. But what's inspiring about that is that the sheer fact that a woman her age is able to spreadsheet everything and just basically list it out and go, right, today I need to chase this and this, because that's the first order. That's the order of works. I need to know about these things before I need to worry about this down here. Right? So project management is going to become more and more valuable and predominant in our PDC course, no doubt. I mean, I've been heading this way a long time, but I was a little bit hesitant to push harder on it over the last few years. I mean, when you guys did your PDC, we spoke about it, and I showed a little example of it. And when we did, I think it might have been the goats, or I can't remember which one it might have been with you guys, but essentially we dug into it. Now, the last PDC, we used the swale workshop that we did at Tilbury Permaculture, Rick Barker's place. And so we put a lot of effort into that, because that one was one that was presented to that weekend course, which was nothing to do with the PDC. So then I've used that now as the example of I think, pretty good project management, but we're going to go way deeper than that as well. I want people to walk away as much knowing about the permaculture design process as I do on how to project manage their design. That's where I'm at
Fantastic.
now. Yeah.
Well, you've definitely got a couple of votes here for having that as a standalone as well, just saying. No pressure.
No, that's great.
Oh,
So if people want to get involved, we'll put all the links for what you've got happening in our show notes so they can jump in there and have a look. I'm sure there'll be lots of people flying into our DMs. So you can go to the show notes before you start DMing us like crazy.
what course is on? Where can we go? How do we get in touch?
That's good though. It's good. People are keen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate you getting everything out, all the various podcasts and all the amazing guest interviewees that you guys have had has been absolutely inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you. We're getting there.
No, and thanks for coming back on and sharing your time with us and sharing what you're up to. And anyone listening who hasn't been out to Limestone, why? You should be. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you are in the country. Just get over here because it is worth a look. I want to come back. I might just happen to, I don't know, drive past because I'll be in the area and just pop in and have a look and see what you've got going on.
So wait, when's your PDC for next year launch? Because this is coming out in November. So for anybody who's wanting to join up, your next sign up will be in January. Is that right?
So it's actually up now.
Okay.
So the PDCHC is now. We've actually already got registrations. People are sort of taking that. We haven't actually publicised it too much. We just put the initial flyer up for it, and that is kicking off. You think I'd know the date, wouldn't you? It's March the 1st.
March, perfect.
2025. So autumn, straight off the bat.
Oh, perfect time.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So awesome, ladies. Yes, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks again.
Thanks, Brett.
See you, Jar. See you, Liz.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Practical Permaculture podcast. Jump onto our Facebook group to keep the chat going and to look for any resources that we mentioned on today's show. Look in the show notes.
And if you liked the episode today, then subscribe. Please give us a review and share. And if you didn't, then that's okay. We're sure you'll find the right podcast for you.
Bye.
Bye.